What is going on, y'all? Robert Sykes, Keto Bodybuilding, KetoSavage.com, and we are coming at you for week 22, reset week 11 of the Keto Building series. So, a couple different things happened this week, or will happen this week going forward. Last week, I had a company in town, and I had 2 or 3 days at that higher intake, which I think was well warranted because I had been walking so much for that March, felt depleted, had the bolus of calories, saw the bump in weight, all is good. I had family in town this past weekend as well, but I only had one deviation from the planned intake, and it was a relatively reasonable increase. I've been targeting around 2,700 calories. One day this past week, I had 3,700 calories, so pretty much an additional 1,000 calories because my folks were in town, and the whole point of that visit was to process the sheep that we had. So we've been homesteading, we got some sheep, and we decided to process those sheep that weekend. So we slaughtered, butchered, and processed 3 sheep, and I decided to go ham, as they say, on the lamb that we had processed. Go ham on the lamb. So that's what I did. We had a whole bunch of lamb chops, lamb ribs, grilled them all up. They were all delicious, and I ate a bunch of them. So I had an extra 1,000 calories, but it was all coming from quality fats and proteins from the lamb that I had raised myself. So I don't really feel too guilty about having extra food there. If we dive into my chronometer account, you can kind of see what this looks like. So you can kind of see from a high-level view here, that was that past weekend. This was just last weekend, had one high day, and the weight is fluctuating a bit. So let me actually go to the trend lines here and dive a little deeper. So you can see just the one deviation with the higher intake, and weight is honestly staying pretty stable. I was 192 upon waking today, so not that much of a spike in weight at all, honestly. And that can be something to note here. So when people are dieting down, again, I never have these deviations when I'm dieting down for a prep, but I am kind of dieting down overall right now at this reset period. So when people go off course and they deviate from their macros, you can kind of get away with one deviation, get right back on track, and your body doesn't really have that much of an adverse response to it. As you can see in my weight here, like I had that one day of 1,000 calories extra, and my weight didn't really change much. Kind of pretty much right back on track with the weight scale. But if you look at the prior weekend when I deviated like 1, 2, 3, 4 days, my weight jumped up quite a bit more. When you have these multiple consecutive, deviations, your body is going to respond much more poorly. So if you do deviate, don't try and do some crazy adjustments the next day and do some extended fasting or starve yourself or anything like that. Do a ton of excessive cardio. Just get back on the plan. That's the best thing you can do. It's the best thing anybody can do. Get back on the plan. Don't beat yourself up about it. Just rock and roll going forward. And like I said, I'm not in a prep right now, so my deviation of eating an extra 1,000 calories is not really the end of the world by any means because I'm not in a prep. So I'm not really worried about it. And that lamb was delicious. So that's what I got going on there. This week, I'm going to be targeting, let me go to my planned intake for this week. So I'm going to be having about 8 tablespoons of heavy cream in my coffee. I'm pretty much consistently doing that. Again, 1 or 2 of those is at a coffee shop. That's a local coffee shop, so I'm not verifying the weight or measuring spoons of that heavy cream, but I'm counting it as 4 tablespoons per cup. Having a Keto Brick after I train in the morning, and then I'll be traveling a little bit. I got family coming in this week as well, so my meals will be a little bit different from day to day, but I'm as a baseline targeting about 5 Egg Life wraps, a pound of the 93.7 grass-fed beef, and then about 5 whole eggs, which will put my total caloric intake for the week, for the day, at around 2,600 calories, 200 grams of protein, less than 20 grams total carbs, and about 190 grams of fat. So I'm at a point now in which my protein is exceeding my fat. If I jump over here to the AI, and I plug in a check-in for today, and I say that, okay, today is the 9th. My weight was 192 today. My fat target is 190. My protein target is 200, and I'm consuming about 20 grams total carbs. Submit that bad boy, and you can see now where my protein is going to start exceeding my fat in grams. So there's that. I am not feeling any adverse response yet, so I am trying to establish my protein threshold at this point in the reset of the building series. However, the gram protein threshold that you experience is largely dependent upon your composition and your caloric intake as well. With me still being at a very high caloric intake, I can tolerate more grams than I would at a similar ratio if I were in a deficit for a prep. So there's that to take note of as well. And again, I am getting lower on the calories relative to what I typically, try and shoot for when in a building phase. I'm at 2,600 calories now. And as I said at the beginning of this reset, I do not plan on going below 2,500 calories in the context of this reset. Otherwise, I'm more or less in a deficit at that point, and that would hinder my muscle building potential. So not planning on dropping below 2,500, so I've only got about another 100 calories to work with. But realistically, I think I'll be able to hit that 185-pound target weight without any issues at that average intake. So I feel pretty good about all of that. And then I'll just return to the higher intake, focusing on building muscle as I go forward. So that's kind of a plan there with the reset, the week 22, what we've got cooking. Again, I've got family coming to town, so I'm going to be a little bit more flexible with my intake. All of my lifting markers have been great. Everything's going up. I signed up for a few trial passes at another local gym, testing out some new equipment. They've got a pendulum squat. They've got a leg kickback, hamstring kickback, glute kickback, whatever you want to call it. They've just got a lot of cool pieces of equipment. So I've got multiple gyms, multiple different pieces of equipment, testing out multiple different things, and I'm just trying to optimize my muscle building potential while in this building phase. I'm also doing the consistent 1 week trail run to kind of get my body in preparation for hunting season out west in the mountains. But that trail run is usually only consisting of about a mile and a half distance, so nothing too exhaustive there. And I'm trying to adhere to once a week of 25 minutes on the stairmaster. Depending on the chaos of the week, sometimes I miss that, but averaging one session a week on the stairmaster at level 15 for 25 minutes so that I can maintain that level of cardio output and just overall cardiovascular conditioning. So feeling pretty good with that. Those sessions are always relatively easy, and I don't feel like I'm overly winded upon completion. Here are some images that I'll throw in of what my current body comp is looking like. I feel like I'm holding relatively stable composition-wise. Once I get down to 185 pounds, I have no doubt that I'll be able to see noticeable changes in just overall definition. And I think targeting that 185 pounds as a goal weight to relatively maintain throughout the majority of my building phase makes a lot of sense. So that's the goal there. So going forward, enjoying the flexibility that being in an off season allows me, while also sticking relatively close to my target intake so that I continue to lean out to that 185 mark and then bump up the calories a little bit from there going forward. So that is a wrap, ladies and gents. Appreciate y'all tuning in, and I will see you next week for week 23.